This might upset some people, but the truth is some people don't deserve anyone by their side at their deathbed. Like they've earned that.
Y'all, men are naturally selfish. A man is never going to put you ahead of himself. It's not going to happen.
You see, when you're working, when you're striving, you're always told as a man you need to protect and provide. And it's not wrong, but it's incomplete.
There is this crisis of men dying alone all around the world, and many people are beginning to notice it. More and more men are growing older alone, no partner, no close friendship, no emotional support system. Hi besties, welcome or welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing, like, comment and share with your friends. So today's topic is about the fact that men are dying alone, and I have compiled some stitches where we can learn a thing or two, and now I'll be back to share my 2 cents.
This might upset some people, but the truth is some people don't deserve anyone by their side at their deathbed. Like they've earned that. You meet patients who are in their dying days, right? Like, this is the end of life, and that's a natural part of life. But it's tragic when nobody's there for them. And then they tell you, I have a son, I have a daughter, I have a family member that they don't talk to me anymore. They say, can you call them? Can you tell them what's going on with me? I want to speak to them before I die. And sometimes you call and the patient's family member will be like, I will talk to them, and they had no idea. And sometimes you call and you hear what this patient did to them in life, and you realize, who could blame you? Of course you're not here, and they want to stay no contact. It's really sad seeing somebody die alone. You realize this person in their life did not treat people in a way that would make them want to be by their side on their deathbed, and that's the tragedy. You can't put it on the other people. It is not their responsibility to now show up and give them what they want. It's a hard truth that some people just don't deserve someone by their side on their deathbed.
Every man in my family that died, they all died alone. They didn't have no kids around them. They didn't have wives around them. They really didn't have much family around them. They died alone. A man will die alone long before a woman does. Y'all, men are naturally selfish. A man is never going to put you ahead of himself. It's not going to happen. Men, we make decisions for ourselves. A woman, on the other hand, will make decisions for the greater good of everybody. A woman will put everybody ahead of herself. That's the nature of what it is to be a nurturer. A woman will operate that way. Men do not. And it's sad because most men don't realize until it's too late just how selfish they were all their lives. They did the women in their lives wrong. Women who loved them to the end of the earth, they did them wrong, mistreated them. The kids that otherwise would have loved them, they weren't there for them, mistreated them, were absent, thinking with not this head, but the other one. And that other head down there will get you in trouble every time, y'all. It'll get you in trouble every time. So as we get older, and before we even get there, before we even get to the point of getting older, because that's somewhat of a luxury, right? Most of us won't live long enough to even get older. As we live our lives now, we have to be cognizant of how we treat people and how we show up, because anybody who has ever been in an assisted living facility, for example, could really verify what I'm talking about. 80% of it is men.
And the reason why I be telling y'all not to trip about these men and whatnot is because I work in the healthcare field. I've been in the healthcare field since I was 18 years old. They're dying alone. They're dying alone. The women that's in these places, their daughters are coming and bringing them to the nail shops, getting their hair done, coming to see them their daughters are coming to see them every 2 weeks. You better ask somebody. I am the one who is right there when some of these men are taking their last breath. I have cleaned so many dead bodies, and guess what? Nobody showed up for them. Not their kids, not their wives, not their grandkids. Nobody came for them because why? They were not good men while they were alive. They're gonna continue dying alone. That's why I tell y'all don't trip. I'm physically seeing it on a daily basis, watching them all go by themselves. And this is their grandpas that they're talking about. These are the men that they're talking about. This is their grandpas that's dying alone. and it's going to be them. That's just the reality of shit. That's why I don't be worried about these men talking, because baby, I watch y'all every day go by yourselves with nobody on y'all side.
Men don't care about dying alone. Men care about dying miserable. Ladies, every time you tell a man, oh, you're gonna die alone, we don't give a fuck about none of that shit. Either way, we gonna die. Either way, we with our family or we by ourselves. Either way, one day, we all gonna die. Men care about being miserable. Fuck that. You know what's worse than dying alone? Making $15 an hour for the rest of your life. You know what's worse than dying alone? Working a 9 to 5 until you die. Straight up. You know what's worse than dying alone? Marrying somebody that you don't really want. Straight up. Men are more concerned with getting the women they want than dying alone. That's just the truth. Men care more about not having or living the life they want instead of dying alone. Dying alone don't mean shit to us. A man's worst fear is regret. Regret will kill us. A man's worst fear is laying on his deathbed, be like, damn, I should have lived my life way different. That's what we scared of.
This message is for the men, okay? I have just been into another property where another man has died in his property alone. Alone. Okay, no family, no nothing. He passed away in October. I went into the property and his remains are on the ground, on the floor. Men, please understand, that fling, that cheating, that absence in your children's life is not worth it in the end. A lot of men are dying alone. They are literally passing away in their properties alone, with no love, no compassion, no nothing. And it broke my heart. The London Fire Brigade have told me that more and more people, elderly people, are passing away in their property alone, with no one, no family, nothing. And it seems to be more males than women. Please, 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 build your family ties, repair your family ties, make friends, have people who know you, who love you, because it is not worth it in the end. Honestly, it's so sad. I can't believe, like, my nose is going because the smell, everything is just terrible, and I just find it heartbreaking.
Fellas, let me tell you this. Running a whole bunch of game and sleeping with a bunch of women is not the flex that a lot of y'all think it is. It's really not. Trust me. I have nurses that's on both sides of my families, and they tell me all these nightmare hospice stories. A lot of these men, nobody care to come and check on them. Nobody call. Nobody there on holidays. Nobody even care on their birthday. The only attention that they can get is from the nurse that's dealing with them every day, that tolerates them every day. Let me correct myself. Coming in the room, changing them, feeding them, and all this other stuff. And even after death, nobody care to make funeral arrangements. I'm telling you, man, running game and creating kids out of wedlock, they don't know their siblings, but one thing they can agree on is that they despise their father. And that's why it's a lot of men in hospice right now that nobody cares about. They've made that bed and now they got to lie in it in hospice, literally.
So as a healthcare worker, there's always this experiment that I do mentally so I can look at the gender dynamics in relationships. And one of the things that I look for is that if I am going to get a patient that is scheduled for me, if it is a man that is in a wheelchair and he is accompanied by his wife, I kid you not, 98% of the time, the wife is going to approach the wheelchair, push the wheelchair into the room, and she is going to accompany him. If his clothes have to be removed, she's going to help him remove his clothes. She's going to help him throughout the whole process. And yet 98% of the time, when there is a woman that is in a wheelchair and she is accompanied by her husband, when I go out to go get the patient, the husband will not get up. The husband will not approach the wheelchair. The husband will literally look at me and look at me like, you can take her. You could take her. And the thing about it is that a lot of the time, whether it's a mother and her son or it is a wife and her husband, she literally will have to ask him, can you please come with me? Can you please help me? And these are the same men that are trying to shame you and fearmonger you into wanting to date them and marry them out of the fear of you dying alone. But yet, in times when you don't have the ability to do anything, they're going to push it off on a caregiver anyway. They're going to push it off on a medical professional anyway. And I see it time and time and time again. These men are not going to be there for you in sickness and health. It's a very, very small majority of them. And I've been working in healthcare since 2017. And I've seen it without fail. Without fail. In the hospital, when there are inpatients, a husband that is the inpatient, the wife is going to ask the nurse and the doctor millions of questions. She's going to have a plethora of questions for the care team, getting clarification, all types of things. The woman that's on the bed, the husband isn't going to ask a fucking thing. Only question that the husband is going to ask is, where's the cafeteria? Where's the vending machine? Where can I go get some coffee? That's what the husband is going to ask when his wife is sick. These men are going to constantly keep trying to sell you this dream that when you get old and if you do this alone, you're going to be miserable. Yet what's really going to happen is that if you decide to deal with them and get married to them, you are still going to be alone. Because every trip that you make to the hospital, these men will be willing to wait for transport because they don't want to push you out into the wheelchair. They don't want to drive up and get the car. They don't want to have to do anything that will inconvenience them. They're going to push it off on the caregiver. So you might as well already have yourself be prepared that even when you're sick, you might as well already know you're going to be under the help and supervision of licensed professionals, a care team, medical professionals. That's who's going to take care of you. In most cases, it's not going to be your husband. The look that these men will give me, the look that I see that these husbands give me, it's like, I'm not getting up. And they'll even ask me, oh, well, can you take her? Can you be able to push the wheelchair and be able to take her? I mean, they're making sure that they know right away that they're not obligated to help their wife in any capacity. Oh, well, can you take her clothes off? What's the point of you coming? What's the point of you being here? Because, of course, we're medical professionals, but to be quite honest, the level of comfort that someone is able to have when a person that they know can come with them and can push their wheelchair and can take off their clothes is always going to exceed the level that a medical professional, the experience that we're going to be able to give them. That's the whole purpose, for comfort, for emotional safety of having somebody come with you. They don't need a chauffeur. They don't need a chauffeur. She can get a taxi, she can get an Uber, and then they could pull up, and then they literally will have transport just come up to the front of the hospital and wheel them to wherever it is that they need to have them be wheeled at. So you're not needed if you're not going to be able to provide the emotional comfort of someone being sick and someone being vulnerable, where they can at least have safety in knowing that at least I don't have a stranger or only a stranger in my presence. Do not let these men fool you. You can talk to any person that is in the medical profession, especially any woman that's in the medical profession. These men are not going to be there for you like they try to sell.
Some of these men gonna die alone in the nursing home. They don't take care of their kids. Their kids don't know them. They don't take care of their wife. Their wife divorced them. Their friend divorced them. The dog divorced them. He broke. Somebody else getting their money.
If you're a successful man, there's something you've been told that's wrong. I've been having a conversation with a man in his 60s, and his biggest complaint has been how now that he's older, his children don't really keep in touch. He almost feels like he's irrelevant in the family. And it's because of one simple thing that I've noticed that happens. You see, when you're working, when you're striving, you're always told as a man you need to protect and provide. And it's not wrong, but it's incomplete. See, the mistake is this. Not only are you meant to protect and provide, but you must protect, provide, and participate. That simply means above and beyond being there financially, what else are you doing to build meaningful relationships with your spouse and your children? There are so many fathers out there who've put their families in beautiful homes and bought everything that everyone wants in that home. But they've never attended a sports day. They've never been to a play. They've never sat down and had a conversation to say, what are the likes and interests that my child has? And so once that child is older, all they then have is the parent who actually participated. And usually that's the mother. Now, this doesn't mean that the father was wrong. It simply means that he got the wrong manual. He was operating from the wrong book. So for every man out there who's chasing prosperity, there's nothing wrong with that. But understand that your role doesn't just stop at protecting and providing. You also need to participate. That is the one way you ensure that further on in life, you are not relegated to obscurity in the family home.
Sometimes the reason certain men end up alone is not just because of bad luck or modern culture. Sometimes it's the way they treated the people closest to them. Marriage is not just about having a wife. It is about partnership, respect, affection, emotional presence, which many men do not provide. Some of these men just think once they marry, they just provide financially and their job is done. No. Marriage is far beyond that. You need to be physically present. You need to be emotionally present for both your wife and your kids. And when these things are missing, a marriage can slowly collapse, even if the couple stays together for years. Many children grow up watching the way their father treats their mothers, and you see these experiences shaping how these children see relationship, love, and family. When a father constantly disrespects his wife, neglecting her emotionally, physically abusing her, extremely harsh, verbally abusive, or even financially abusive to the wife, the damage does not stay inside the marriage alone. It spreads into the lives of the children who are watching everything. And that is why, as parents, you need to be very careful of what you display in front of your children. And I'm not saying that you should be harsh or do anything like that. Of course, be respectful, but you need to be very careful with what you do in front of your kids, because they are learning, they are looking at you, they are looking up to you. So everything you do in front of them, to them it is normal. And some of these things that these men do is actually not normal. Another thing is that some of these men grow up believing that authority in the household means dominance rather than leadership. So instead of having a matured conversation with their wives and children, they use harsh words, they use insult, constant criticism. Every small mistake becomes an argument. Every disagreement becomes a battle. Sometimes it is even the children who settle the quarrels between the parents. The wife constantly feels judged and belittled, and the children are watching. You might think they don't notice all these things, but we have seen so many people coming out telling us about the traumas they grew up with, how their father disrespected their mother, and how their father, maltreats their mother, beats their mother. You might be thinking they are young, they don't know all these things, but they do. Children growing up in such environments absorb everything they see. Imagine a young boy watching his father constantly disrespecting his mother. He may begin to believe that that is the normal behavior for a man. He may grow up thinking that leadership in a home means shouting, controlling, or humiliating the woman who stands next to him. And if he doesn't watch it, he's going to carry on that attitude into the next generation. And before you know it, it becomes a pattern in that family. Many of these homes, children begin to lose respect for their fathers. A few months back, there was a story of a popular Nigerian musician whose father came on the internet crying that the son has refused to speak with him for years, and that he mentioned some of those diseases that he's having, and that really needs money. If you look at the man, he looks so poverty stricken. And then when you're connecting the dot, that how can your son be this rich, extremely rich? He travels the world, he does world tours and all that, and you are staying in an apartment that is not even good at all. So, internet came out after the musician, why would you do this to your father? But then the musician came out and said, this man is a very useless man. This man sent myself and my mother out when we were young. We had no place to sleep. We were sleeping on the streets. So now that he now has money, you're not crying foul on the internet. So these are some of the ways that these men behave, and then nobody wants to even relate with them. I'm sure when that man was growing up, he felt he could get away with it. He didn't know the destiny of that child. He felt he could get away with it. But as life will happen, that boy's destiny changed for good. And now you are trying to come back, you are trying to beg, you are trying to be a better father when things have become better. Okay, what if things did not get better? Would you have that effrontery to actually come to the internet? Let's talk about absentee fathers. Being an absentee father is not only when the man physically disappears from his children's life. Sometimes he even lives with them in the same house, but he is never available emotionally is distant and uninvolved with the things going on in the house. I mean, think about it. How can you be home and your impact is not felt? You are not communicating well with your kids. You are not forming bonds with them. You are not going for their recitals. You are not going for their sport games. You are just there. So what's the point of being a father? Now, these children that you never formed any bond or form any relationship with them, how then do you want them to bond with you when you grow up? And then you now come out and start complaining that nobody wants to talk to you. Your children are not speaking with you. And you know the funny thing about some of these men, they don't even take responsibility for their actions. They still believe that they were right. So for men like this, you don't expect your children to actually surround you on the days of your old age when you are sick or when difficulty comes, because these are the children you never cared about. Over the time, emotional bond becomes non-existent. Years later, when life becomes difficult and age catches up with you, now start looking for ways to amend with them, forgetting that relationship cannot be built at the last minute. They are built through years of presence. So if you're a man and you're watching this, yes, this does not only affect men, it also affects some women, but it's more common amongst the men. Do better. Be kind to your family. Be nice to your wife. If you never loved a woman, you don't need to go ahead in marriage and then punish that person. You need to bond with your children. Be a lovable person. I hope you have enjoyed this video. We have come to the end of the video, but I would like to know your thoughts in the comment section. Kindly like, share, subscribe. Till I see you on another video. Have an amazing day. Bye.